Something good to know from First Bank of Sea Isle City. We have all of today's innovative banking products just like the big banks, but we offer something they can't. A personal community focus. Let's get you started with Bill Pay. You save time when you pay your bills online. It's fast, easy, and convenient. First Bank of Sea Isle City. A community bank that delivers more for you every day. Personal service, today's technology, from the people who truly care. Learn more at firstbankseaisle.com.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
They got him again!
Sixers.
Bang! It's good! Ball game!
And Flyers.
Tipped in front of the net!
97.3 ESPN. WENJ. WENJ HD. Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is Game Night with Josh Hennick.
It's good!
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
And he scored!
Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Josh Hennig.
Getting you ready for the weekend here on 97.3 ESPN. Phillies, they look to continue their winning ways in Cleveland this weekend. Plus, what is the biggest question of the Eagles offseason? We'll get into all that and more this hour here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. And as always, we are live on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. Just you and me hanging out tonight because there's a lot of Phillies conversation, Eagles conversation that we need to get into. And, you know, I was thinking about what ESPN MLB insider Tim Kurchin was telling Mike Gill earlier tonight on the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN. And, you know, it's one of those deals where I think we all are prisoners of the moment. And sometimes we all need to kind of like step back to take a wider picture. And, you know, it's not that you can't criticize the team. It's not that you can't be critical of them. But there's a duality to it. You have to be critical. You have to be realistic. But you also have to have the perspective to understand, as Tim Kurchin explained earlier to Mike Gill on the Sports Bash, you don't panic this early in the season. Take a listen.
You can't panic after a month and a half of the season. The game is so difficult to play. It takes a little while to find your team, your footing, your roles. So I don't ever completely get worried about a team, especially, say, in the American League where there are no great teams. Different story in the National League, so many good ones. But the point is, I'm not worried at all where the Phillies are right now because it could be a lot worse.
It could be a lot worse. And I think that is the fascinating part of this conversation, right? It's the reality that Philadelphia, just after sweeping the Rays, they have now swept, straight up sweep. Before yesterday, they were 2-4 in such games. They are now have won 9 of their last 11. They have compiled a legitimate winning streak. They have compiled a legitimate run that they have shown you they are a winning ball club. And I think that is why, you know, you cannot hyper read too much into one day or another. So how did a team that started so sluggishly, especially offensively, turn into a team that is now, they have not just won 9 of their last 11, but if you look at all 9 of those wins in their last 11 games, all but 2 of them, they have scored 5 or more runs. How did we get here? Well, we got here because what happened almost 3 weeks ago now, it may go down as the most important moment of the entire season. The reason why we are here today with an offense that is cooking all of a sudden is because of one move, and that was putting Bryson Stott at the top of the lineup. It was a move that I was against. It was a move that I had a lot of questions about. And it has turned out to be the smartest move of the season. Because when Bryson Stott became the leadoff hitter on April 11th, okay, they lost that game. It's fine. It was the first one. But since that day, the Philadelphia Phillies have won 14 of their last 22 games. You take out the very first game, which was a loss, 2-0 loss to the Cardinals. But since that day, Phillies have 14 of 18 wins. In the wins where Bryson Stott has been the leadoff hitter, they have scored 7 runs, 7 runs, 8 runs, 7, 3, 7, 7, 10. 3, they lost that game. And before that, they lost the game when they only scored 4 runs. They lost the game where they scored 5 runs. But you're seeing the pattern here. 11 runs scored. 7, 6, 6. Ever since he got put in the leadoff spot, it has sparked this offense. And as Tim Kirchin explains, he expects the rest of the Phillies offense to get even hotter as the season goes on. Take a listen.
You know, the offense hasn't been great, but it's only a matter of time before Harper and Turner and everyone on this team really starts to hit Real Muto also. This is a really good offensive team, but in this day and age, with the stuff that you see on a nightly basis, big slumps are going to happen from big players because it's just so hard to get a hit in today's day and age.
And you look at what Bryson Stott did in the game last night. It was arguably the second most important hit of his entire career. If you take out the grand slam in the postseason, that was a massive home run, not just for the game last night, but for the Phillies to have another layer of confidence added in. The Philadelphia Phillies have, for the first time in 2025, lined up with the New York Mets. Thanks to last night's game, thanks to them winning 9 of their last 11 games, thanks to Bryson Stott becoming the leadoff hitter, the Phillies have now tied the New York Mets. They both have 181 runs scored. They are now tied for the sixth most runs scored in the National League. Just 2 weeks ago, the Phillies were 10th or 11th heading into that weekend a couple weeks ago. They have now scored enough runs that they have now matched the Mets for runs scored this year. They are only 2 behind the Giants, and they are 10 behind the Diamondbacks. They are 4 behind the Cincinnati Reds. The Bats are waking up. And for all the hate that Rob Thompson all the hate that the fans love to sling out there about Rob Thompson, the Phillies manager, I have not seen anyone have the stones to give the man credit. So I'll do it. I think the only people that I have heard or seen anywhere who have admitted that they were wrong about Bryson Stott are me and Mike Gill here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. Everyone else who has criticized Rob Thompson, who didn't like Bryson Stott as leadoff hitter or didn't believe in Bryson Stott coming into this year, no one else has been able to be an adult and admit they were wrong. And what's amazing is now that the Phillies have hit that 181 runs scored mark, now that the Phillies have a winning 9 of the last 11 games, now that the Phillies have found a level of consistency, at least in certain parts of the lineup, Bryce Harper is still barely giving you anything on a night-to-night basis. Even Brandon Marsh, a guy that I have ripped incredibly this year. I have been on him from day one, and he has disappointed almost the entire season. Even Brandon Marsh did some good stuff last night. The Phillies are coming around, but it all started with Bryson Stott, the leadoff hitter. Since Bryson Stott became the Phillies' leadoff hitter, by the way, Bryson, the former first-round pick in the Major League Baseball draft, Stott as a .418 slug. He's getting on base, .330. Not great, but it's not horrible either. The slug is very impressive. He has 15 RBI in his last 23 games where he has a plate appearance. Furthermore, that was just the last 23 games. If you isolate Bryson Stott just in the leadoff hole, not in games where he has come in or pinch hit or anything like that. If you isolate him in terms of just as the leadoff hitter for this team, just as a leadoff hitter, 15 RBI in those 20 games. Along with 3 doubles, 2 triples. And it's nice to see that he has more stolen bases as the Phillies leadoff hitter than any other place in the batting lineup combined. Now look, I'm not saying Bryson Stott is the best hitter in the world, okay? Don't get it twisted, okay? But what I am saying is it is obvious that this young man has become the catalyst for a level of success for this team. And when I saw him at that home run last night, there was a part of me that just put my hands in the air and I just didn't even know what to say. I was just amazed. I was thrilled. I was happy. I was ecstatic. Whatever verbiage you want to use, because the Phillies were going to lose that game last night. And then here comes Bryson Stott to save the day. Bryson Stott, the 14th overall pick in the 2019 MLB draft. The Vegas kid who grew up wanting to be like Bryce Harper, who is now his teammate. Bryson Stott has become one of the most important hitters for this offense. And as they start scoring runs again, as they start finding their mojo again, as they are now becoming a more consistent winning ball club, at least offensively, we'll get to the pitching staff in just a minute, but as of right now, you might not know this because, again, some people will not mention this. Bryson Stott is tied for the third most RBI on the team, with his fellow Vegas alumni, Bryce Harper. And while Kyle Schwarber continues to have a borderline MVP season and Nick Castellanos has come through more often than I expected him to with runners in scoring position. It has been Bryson Stott that has picked up the slack when Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, JT Realmuto, and Alec Boehm have let this team down. And while it took Alec Boehm several weeks to find a more consistent hitting stroke, while it has taken Brandon Marsh a trip to the IL and the minor leagues to start getting more than one hit in a game, and while it has taken Johan Rojas overcoming multiple mental errors this season, Stott has become the man for this team. We'll get your guys' thoughts on the other side. 609-403-0973. I see George from Summers Point chiming in. Also your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. We are live on my YouTube channel at Josh Hinnig. And coming up next, we'll talk more Phillies. Also later in the show, what is the biggest question with the Eagles offseason? And what is the answer in center field? If it's not Marsh and it is not Rojas, could it be Justin Crawford? I'll let you hear what Tim Kirchin told Mike Gill earlier today on the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN.
Tomorrow on ESPN Radio.
On the run to the warning track, he has done it again! Austin Riley.
Austin Riley leads the Atlanta Braves into PNC Park to face O'Neal Cruz and the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Back there, on its way, gone! And the Pirates winning.
The Braves at the Pirates. Coverage begins tomorrow at 3:30 Eastern.
Listen to Major League Baseball all season on 97.3 ESPN.
Progressive has great customer service, and it's easy to reach us because great and easy is the way to be. Like salads. Great for you, and so easy you can put any group of veggies in a bowl and it's a salad. A full carrot with a head of cabbage? Weird, but still a salad. One radish and a couple of green beans? Also a salad. 14 blueberries, half an onion, and a sunchoke? Odd, yes, but an odd salad. So contact Progressive's customer service by phone, app, or online. It's great and easy, just like salad. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
If you need to hire, it seems like the whole process can be exhausting. You search resumes, wait for the right candidates to apply, set up initial interviews. It's a lot of time and work. Well, what if you could meet with qualified candidates for your job the very next day? Now you can with Zip Intro from ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro is super easy to use. You simply pick a time, and it does all the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates for you. Then you can choose who you want to talk to and meet with great people on back-to-back video calls as soon as the next day. Best of all, you save time and energy.
Try Zip Intro for free right now at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro. Post jobs today, talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Once again, go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Huge news. Right now at Wendy's, you can get a Son of Baconator for just $3. I don't think you understand this situation. The Son of Baconator is only $3 for a limited time. You know, smoked bacon, rich melted cheese. That Son of Baconator is only $3. Thank you to whoever wished upon that star. For bacon that just won't quit, gotta be Wendy's.
U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii, not valid on a combo or on third-party delivery platforms.
Warning, the national debt is spiraling out of control. Trade wars are causing record volatility, and inflation could make a devastating comeback. Will you sit on the sidelines and wait, or will you take action today to help protect your hard-earned retirement savings? And what if you could do it tax and penalty-free? Find out more by requesting your free 2025 Gold and Silver Kit from the top-rated precious metals company, Goldco. Plus, you could get an unlimited instant match on bonus silver if you qualify. Call 855-969-GOLD to learn more. That's 855-969-GOLD. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Progressive Insurance presents the Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN. The Philadelphia Phillies and the Cleveland Guardians beginning a 3-game set in Cleveland tonight. Philadelphia has won 5 of 6 Thursday night. They beat the Tampa Bay Rays 7-6 in 10 innings. They complete the 3-game sweep. Bryson Stott with a 3-run home run. Aaron Nola gets a start for the Phillies tonight. 1-5, has an ERA of 4.61. Gavin Williams will go for Cleveland 2-2, an ERA over 5. NBA playoffs right here on 97.3 ESPN starting at 7. The Indiana Pacers and the Cleveland Cavaliers playing in Game 3. Pacers up 2-0. The NBA Draft Lottery will be taking place on Monday night. Philadelphia a 10.5% chance of landing the number 1 pick. If the Sixers have a pick that lands in the top 6, they get to keep it. If it lands outside of that window, it'll belong to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Progressive Insurance, bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. I'm Tony Desiri, and that's your Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Welcome to the weekend. As final showers exit the coast this evening, we'll be treated to some beautiful May weather, slowly clearing skies, and chilly temperatures ahead for tonight will drop to around 50. Tomorrow morning, clouds will give way to sunshine. It'll be breezy, high of 72. Mother's Day Sunday looks sunny as well, and mild with a high of 74. Mostly sunny and 75 on Monday. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
Something good to know from First Bank of Sea Isle City. We have all of today's innovative banking products just like the big banks, but we offer something they can't. A personal community focus. Let's get you started with Bill Pay. You save time when you pay your bills online. It's fast, easy, and convenient. First Bank of Sea Isle City. A community bank that delivers more for you every day. Personal service, today's technology, from the people who truly care. Learn more at firstbankseaisle.com.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Dave Dombrowski's never satisfied with anything until he's absolutely certain that we've got everyone in place, and I'm not so sure about Marsh and Rojas. However, with the defense that both of them, especially Rojas, provides, they're going to get a little bit more rope to start to hit a little bit more. But I don't think the Phillies have to do anything in a major way in an acquisition. Just some guys, including Alec Bohm, just have to start hitting the way that we know that they can.
That was Tim Kirchin earlier today on the Sports Bash with Mike Gell here on 97.3 ESPN. It sounds like to me, the way Kirchin views it, there are two sides to this coin. One is, when it comes to center field, he says, look, I think that these guys are good enough defensively to keep the job for now, but he also says that Dave Dombrowski is not the kind of guy who's ever satisfied. And what I find fascinating about the Dave Dombrowski is never satisfied is if that is his personality, right? You know, if what John Middleton said earlier this year when Dave Dombrowski was trying to make all kinds of trades, no one make a deal. You know, if Dave Dombrowski is right when he said, look, I tried to offer Hoffman a deal, and he didn't want to come back for the price we offered him, and then he got the price anyway from the Blue Jays. Maybe Dombrowski is trying more than I thought he was. Maybe Dombrowski is not as passive as I think he is in terms of my own interpretation. And I hope what Tim Kirchin said is right, because as we have said numerous times here on 97.3 ESPN, Josh Hennig hanging out with you in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios, our hope and our prayer for this team is that the organization sees how they're playing and realizes that they just need more. And as Kirchin said, they don't need this massive player. And you know what? Maybe they don't. Maybe Kirchin is right. Maybe it's the idea that they don't need a big name. Maybe the answer is not, to use an example, Nolan Arenado, Mike Trout. Maybe the answer is somebody less of a big name, but who fits in very well with what this team needs. Look, they're going to have to go out and get a bullpen pitcher at some point before the deadline. And maybe the center fielder is in the minor league system right now. Here is ESPN MLB insider Tim Kurchin earlier today with Mike Gill on the Sports Bash when he was asked about could Justin Crawford be brought up here to be the Phillies center fielder this season.
I think it's better to bring up a young guy into a winning environment surrounded by veteran players, Schwarber, Harper, many others. When he does come up, they're not all looking at him like, the Royals did when Alex Gordon came up, or the Orioles did when Matt Wieters came up, and people said, great, the savior is here, when that's not the thing to do for a young player.
Listen, I think Crawford, if he does come up, I think Kurchin has made a great point there that he's not coming up to a situation where he has to be the best player or the second or the third or the fourth. He needs to be part of the 9 in the lineup. He needs to be part of the team. He doesn't need to be everything, right? So it's the idea that when I'm looking at this situation, right? I got 9 guys in the field. I need Crawford to be one of the 9 guys, not the best of the 9 guys in the field. When I see him in the lineup, I don't need him to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put him at 7. Put him at 8 or 9. It doesn't matter. He can be part of the team, and maybe that is enough for center field. And listen, I can totally see a scenario where the Phillies say, look, at the deadline, we're going to create a deal where we move on from Brandon Marsh, package him with somebody else, and then send those guys away. And then you can have Crawford and Rojas platoon in center field, where you don't ask Crawford to hit against left-handed pitching. You ask Rojas to do it. You work Rojas in a little more here and there, and let those guys handle center field because they're both A-plus defensive players in terms of their athleticism. Obviously, Crawford has the higher baseball IQ than Rojas because of part who his dad is. You know, the genetics and the growing up around baseball helps for Crawford. But I think at the end of the day, I think this could be a win-win if Crawford does come up. I just don't want to see a team that has Crawford and Marsh on it because now you're leaning into the great weakness of this team, which is the glut of left-handed hitting. All right, we've got a couple texts to get to on the text board, 609-403-0973. That's where George from Summers Point chimes in. It says, Josh, while I never criticized Rob Thompson for his managing, I do agree with you and Mike Gill that although Thompson is not a great manager, he's exactly what this team needs to function at the best of its ability. He's a great game and player manager, but maybe not the classic great baseball style of manager in line with someone like Joe Torre or Bobby Cox. He is exactly what the Phillies need. That's George in Summers Point. Well, 2 points there, George. Number one, what's interesting about you bringing up those names is that Joe Torre is actually Rob Thompson's mentor in baseball. Rob Thompson has said numerous times that he has learned everything he knows about baseball from Joe Torre. And Joe Torre himself was never the greatest strategist when it came to the game of baseball. It's a big reason why Torre failed earlier in his managerial career. You know, we forget that Joe Torre was a losing manager before the Yankees hired him. Joe Torre was a failure as a manager. Not once, not twice, but 3 different stops. He had a losing record with the Mets. He was barely above 500 with the Braves. And he had a losing record with the Cardinals. The reason why Joe Torre was hired by the Yankees was not because of his resume. It was because of his people skills. And I think it's a very interesting name that you bring up there, George Summers Point, because Joe Torre's greatest strength with the Yankees from the mid-90s to the early 2000s, when they won all those World Series, what made Joe Torre who he was, what made him a 90-plus win manager almost every single year, what got him not one, not two, not three, not four championships, as well as multiple American League championships along the way. What made them so successful was that Torre was one of the greatest managers of egos and personalities, from the owner, George Steinbrenner, to initially it was Bob Watson was the general manager, later it became Brian Cashman, to all of the different players who came in and out of that locker room. Joe Torre was one of the best handlers of people and personalities that we've ever seen. That's who Rob Thompson's mentor is. Joe Torre tried to be the greatest X and O manager, and he was a loser with the Mets. He never made the postseason as the manager of the Atlanta Braves in the 1980s. And look, those Cardinal teams, he had a limited amount of success until they fired him. So Joe Torre went through a long stretch of time where he was viewed as a loser. Joe Torre never won a playoff game until he got to New York. And like Rob Thompson, he was a baseball lifer. But it wasn't until he leaned into what made him really good, which was managing people, managing personalities, letting Don Zimmer be the baseball guru, letting Mel Stoudemire be the great pitching coach, letting other coaches on his staff be the quote-unquote baseball experts, and that he could just focusing on running a team, managing a team. And that's what Rob Thompson tries to emulate. Now, is he Joe Torre? Obviously not, because I think what people forget about Joe Torre, what made him so successful, was also the baseball awareness that he had. You know, Joe Torre was a manager with 3 different organizations before he became the Yankees manager. And I think that this being Rob Thompson's first job as a manager probably has a certain impact on how he does things, because I think a lot of the decisions he makes is influenced by the men he has worked with, like Joe Torre, like Joe Girardi, etc. So I think there is that factor in all of this. I don't think Rob Thompson is Joe Torre, but I do know he models his game after him. And part of that modeling, George Summers Point, is the reality that it's about handling personalities, it's about connecting with the people. This team doesn't need a rah-rah guy. This team needs a guy who is going to be steady, reliable. Because at some point, Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Castellanos, Real Muto, Wheeler, Nola, these are veteran players. If they need someone screaming and yelling at them to do their job, for them to do their job, then they're probably not real mature professionals, to be honest with you. And realistically, I think the only guy who might need a stern talking to on this team at this point are Alec Boehm and Johan Rojas. And I think it has to do with maturity. I don't think it has to do with their talent or their ability or their work ethic. But I do think there's a little bit inside of Boehm and there's something inside of Rojas that lends them. I mean, how do I put this? There's something in Rojas and Boehm that lends them to a level of emotional immaturity, I don't know if it's just inherent to who they are. I don't know if it's their upbringing. I don't know if it's their whatever it is. But there's something about them that lends them to a level of immaturity. And it's taking more time than maybe other people for them to get the most out of themselves consistently. I see more maturity in guys like Bryson Stott, young players. For as much as Kerkering frustrates us, I am impressed with the young man that there are many times that if you looked at a baseball reliever in like the 90s and they had a rough day at the office, they might chuck their glove in the dugout. They might kick the Gatorade bottle. They might storm down the dugout hallway. Kerkering doesn't do that stuff, and I do give him credit for that. So I do think that for a guy like Rob Thompson, to the original point, you're right, George's original point, he is the right man for the job. Now, if you want to tell me that this team doesn't win a championship this year and they don't get at least the NLCS, that the Phillies said, Rob, we love everything you've done, we need a different voice, that's a different conversation. You can be a good manager, you can be a good coach, and you wear out your time in a situation. Look at Andy Reid in Philadelphia. Andy Reid in 2012 did not all of a sudden become a horrible coach. But over time, he was in Philadelphia for so long, maybe the messaging and everything just got old and stale, right? There's a reason why Scotty Bowman, the Hockey Hall of Fame coach, is the most successful coach in NHL history. And it wasn't because he stayed with the same team his entire coaching career. He left multiple places and had success. In sports, being fired, being let go from a job, having multiple jobs doesn't make you more or less of a manager. It just means that maybe your voice, your messaging, your whatever is just getting old in that situation. So keep that in mind as well when we have these conversations. Kevin Brigantine chimes in at 609-403-0973. Kev says, I've been an advocate at Bryson Stott being the leadoff hitter since 2023. He says, I do remember Kevin Long saying that someday he would win a batting title. Stott takes pitches and makes contact without striking out often. Also, he's a very good fielder. He's had very few bad games, and you guys all wanted him benched. Well, first of all, Kev, I never wanted him benched, okay? I know there's a lot of people who, now again, I'm speaking generally, Josh Hennick here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios here on 97.3 ESPN. I think, Kev, what you're referring to is there is a contingent of people who are very passionate about getting Sosa more playing time as opposed to Stott. My position on Stott previously had always been, I like him, but I don't like him batting consistently against left-handed pitching. I never understood why in some of these games they would start him and Marsh against left-handed pitching. I looked at, and again, I'm creating a little bit of a parallel between past and present tense. I always looked at Stott more in the Mickey Morandini mold than the Chase Utley mold. Okay? Now, Kevin Brigantine, it seems like you viewed him more in the Chase Utley mold. As you said it, he can maybe win a batting title. He is someone who doesn't strike out a lot. He is someone who has very few bad games. He is a guy you want in the field every day. Whereas I looked at him as a Mickey Morandini, a guy who he's probably going to start between 120 and 140 games a year. But for the other 20 to 40 games when there's a left-handed pitcher on the mound, I'm playing somebody else. Mickey Morandini was the Phillies second baseman in 93 when they had a chance to win a World Series. So I never looked at him and said, I want him benched. I don't want him out there. Okay. I'm pulling it up right now. The most games Morandini ever played in a season was 154. And that was not even in Philadelphia. That was with Chicago. In Philadelphia, the most games he ever played in a season was 150. So, just in that vein, that means there were 12 games at minimum a year where the Phillies said, Mickey, you're not playing. In 93, he only appeared in 120 games. That means there were potentially 42 other games where somebody else was playing second base. And Mickey Morandini was an all-star. So, Kev, I can't speak for everyone else. But if I were to tell you that Bryson Stott's potential was to be the regular second baseman for a team that goes to the World Series and eventually becomes an all-star, like Mickey Morandini, then I don't think that qualifies me as saying I wanting him benched. Now again, there are people out there who looked at Stott and had the question, is he part of the future of this team? Well, why did they question that? Because of Stott's struggles last year. Now, Stott claims that the struggles he had last year was a byproduct of the injury that he sustained. Remember, he was very good in 2023. He regressed in 2024. Stott claimed it was in part because of the injuries. So now if we're looking at him and saying he's healthy again, and now his numbers are more in line with what he did in 2023 than 2024, then yes, maybe there's something to that. Maybe the injury was legitimate. Maybe we do have to look at him and say, man, I kind of feel bad for the guy. Like, I had a rough year last year, and he just wasn't healthy. But I just don't see Chase Utley in there. Maybe Kevin Brigantine, you do. Maybe Bryson Stott's true potential is where we're both wrong, where he's more than Mickey Morandini, but he's less than Chase Utley. So what we're saying is he's more than just a regular all-star, but he's less than a borderline Hall of Famer. That's pretty darn good assessment of Stott, right? For a young man who is now 27 years old, for a young man who is in only his, his fourth year in the major leagues. It's pretty darn good. And if he does win a batting title, that is absolutely awesome. And then Kevin Long will be a prognosticator. And Kevin, I don't know, congratulations. But I think, I think the problem with this conversation, Kevin Brigantine, is that I don't think everyone wanted him benched. I don't think that we're all haters of him because we said, hey, versus left-handed pitching, I would rather Sosa be out there because Sosa is the better hitter versus left-handed pitching. And listen, there is still a question about what is Bryson Stott's future with this team. Now, if we are to project out his numbers right now for the rest of the season, all right, because we are 34 games he has played this year, okay? So Stott has played a majority of the games for the Phillies this year. So if we look back at what he did last year, okay, he played 148 games. Let's assume he plays 148 again. Last year, he had 57 RBI. If he continues on the track that he's on, he will get past that number. He's already has a better batting average, a better on-base percentage, and a better slugging percentage than last year. So if we project him out, there's no question he is part of this team's future. But then the question is, where do you put Aiden Miller in a couple of years? Are you going to ask Stott, Turner to move to a different position? Do you eventually ask Bryce Harper to go back to the outfield and put, let's say, Alec Boehm at first base? Do you end up trading Alec Boehm one day and then ask Aiden Miller to play third base? People have said that Aiden Miller is the best Phillies prospect since Mike Schmidt. That is a lofty, lofty level. If that's who he could potentially be, you're not telling Aiden Miller, well, Aiden, we don't have a spot for you because Bryson Stott is a really good leadoff hitter. Like, no. You figure it out. You make this work. You put the pieces together. So it's not about Stott, whether he gets benched or not. It's about how does he fit into the future of this team. And if you have Trey Turner and Bryce Harper locked up on long-term deals, and if you want to re-sign Schwarber or Real Muto this offseason, and you want to consider bringing up Justin Crawford, and you want to consider bringing up Aiden Miller in the short-term future, that's why we ask questions about what is Stott. And if Stott continues to play how he's playing now the rest of the year, then I think it's safe to say that no one is going to ask for Stott to be benched. And I have to laugh at these questions and these comments because, I don't know if I know Kevin Brigantine or not, but I feel like Kevin Brigantine and George and Summers Point are the kind of people who are just trying to give honest assessments of this team. And I think if we all sat down and had honest conversations, there would be a lot less extremism when it comes to how we view this baseball team. But when we get emotional, as we all do, there's a part of us that looks at this team, looks at these players, and comes up with big demonstrative comments. We all do it. It's okay. All right, coming up on the side. More your text at 609-403-0973. Your DMs into 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. We're also live on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. A lot to get to still to come on the other side, though. There is one question for the Philadelphia Eagles that has not yet been answered. What is that question? We'll try to answer it next here on 97.3 ESPN.
Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN Radio. It's an interleague showdown in Cleveland.
Deep right field, and this game is tied. Monster home run from Harper.
Bryce Harper and the Philadelphia Phillies face Jose Ramirez and the Cleveland Guardians.
Gone! Jose Ramirez.
The Phillies and Guardians on Sunday Night Baseball. Coverage begins at 6 Eastern.
It's Phillies baseball on 97.3 ESPN.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey, Joy. Oh, you are glowing.
Oh, hey. More like Mira joyed that Miralax helped me go. I was so backed up. Tried mega coffees, prune juice, everything. Then Miralax. And hello, gentle relief without the harsh side effects.
Ooh, how does it work?
It works naturally with the water in your body for constipation relief. Find Miralax today at your local retailer.
Use as directed for occasional constipation.
If you need to hire, it seems like the whole process can be exhausting. You search resumes, wait for the right candidates to apply, set up initial interviews. It's a lot of time and work. Well, what if you could meet with qualified candidates for your job the very next day? Now you can with Zip Intro from ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro is super easy to use. You simply pick a time, and it does all the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates for you. Then you can choose who you want to talk to and meet with great people on back-to-back video calls as soon as the next day. Best of all, you save time and energy.
Try Zip Intro for free right now at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro. Post jobs today. Talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Once again, go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Find mom's best gift at Target. Now through Mother's Day, get up to 40% off gifts for her. Discover trendy apparel and swimwear that'll elevate any wardrobe. Jewelry that'll make her smile shine brighter, and even chocolate that'll turn any moment into something sweeter. There are endless options to choose from to show her she's the best. Hurry! Save 20 to 40% on select apparel, jewelry, chocolates, and more this Mother's Day only at Target. Restrictions apply.
Protect your home and auto with a bundle from Progressive so you can stop worrying about them and invent new things to worry about, like snakes in your bedroom. Sure, that sounds incredibly irrational, but now that we've mentioned it, you are a little worried. The odds of one snake, let alone snakes plural, are so slim. But you might want to check. Oh, you're not near your bedroom. Guess you'll just have to sit there and worry about it. So let Progressive protect your home and auto, because you've got enough to worry about. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Something good to know from First Bank of Sea Isle City. We have all of today's innovative banking products just like the big banks, but we offer something they can't. A personal community focus. Let's get you started with Bill Pay. You save time when you pay your bills online. It's fast, easy, and convenient. First Bank of Sea Isle City. A community bank that delivers more for you every day. Personal service, today's technology, from the people who truly care. Learn more at firstbankseaisle.com.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennick on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
I think survived losing Kellen Moore. The reality is a couple years ago, the Eagles lost both coordinators, and they fell apart throughout the season. And then I think it was hard for Nick Sirianni to kind of manage. They obviously got it right a year ago. Vic Fangio's back. We're talking about him developing young players. Look, continuity is important.
That was Tim Hasselbeck on ESPN's NFL Live, the former NFL quarterback and ESPN football analyst. Josh Hennick back here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios on 97.3 ESPN. It ultimately is the only question that we have not gotten any answers to this offseason. And frankly, we will not get any answers until the season starts. Another offensive coordinator for Jalen Hurts. Another different guy who is going to be in the ear of the Philadelphia Eagles franchise quarterback. Kevin Matullo. This is now his 5th year with the Eagles. He came to Philadelphia with Nick Sirianni. He is considered Nick Sirianni's right-hand man. Remember when Sirianni had to miss time because of COVID restrictions, because he tested positive for COVID at one point years ago, it was Kevin Matullo who became the interim man in charge, the guy running practices, running everything for the Eagles. And this is going to be the first time in his NFL life that Kevin Matullo is going to be calling plays. He is the biggest question mark coming into the season for the Eagles. Now, I get it. This guy has been around the NFL since 2007. He has worked on numerous coaching staffs with tons of people over the years. Starting in Kansas City, then with the Buffalo Bills, then the Tennessee Titans, then the New York Jets. Then he met Nick Sirianni in Indianapolis. And after that, he ended up coming with him to Philadelphia to be what they have been calling the passing game coordinator and associate head coach for the last few years. But now as the offensive coordinator, and as Tim Hasselbeck goes on to say, there's a reason why the loss of Kellen Moore and the new OC, Kevin Matullo, is still a concern for Philadelphia.
When you're coaching Jalen Hurts, I think it's a challenge. I think Kellen Moore, what he did a great job of was bring the stuff that he was good at doing, but not abandon the stuff that Jalen had been so successful doing. And so you combine those two things together and you've got a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And so now, the understanding between quarterback and play caller, I just think that can be a significant change. You see some teams really struggle with it. And I think for Philadelphia, it ends up being a hurdle if they want to get back to where they were a year ago.
And listen, I get it, okay? Kevin Patullo, he's a local guy, originally from New Jersey, before going on the different places in his career. There's a lot of positive vibes with the guy, okay? I totally get it. And listen, he's been around a lot of smart football people, okay? He worked with Frank Reich. He worked with Chan Gailey. He has been around a lot of different coaches in his football life who have taught him a lot. I'm very sure he is a very knowledgeable and informed and educated and whatever else you want to call it type of coach, okay? But the fact the man's never called any plays in his entire football life, and now you're handing an offense with a quarterback who Tim Hasselbeck said, not Josh Hennig, not anybody else, said that coaching Jalen Hurts is still a bit of a challenge. We're not saying Jalen Hurts is a bum. We're not saying he's lazy. We're not saying he can't win games. But there's a reason why there's only a handful of men who have ever gotten the most out of Jalen Hurts. There's 3. From college at Alabama to Oklahoma to Philadelphia, he has now had 10 different coordinators, but only 3 men calling plays who have gotten the maximum potential out of those 10. Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma, Shane Steichen with the Eagles, and Kellen Moore with the Eagles. 3 men, 3 out of 10. That means that there is a 30% chance that Kevin Patullo, well, actually, yeah, 30% chance that Kevin Patullo is going to be successful. He'll be a 4 out of 11. I don't think it's a coincidence that not everyone has gotten the most out of this guy, Jalen Hurts. Now, I will say, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown think very highly of Kevin Patullo. Devontae Smith thinks very highly of him. Jeff Stoutland speaks very highly of him. No one has created any rumblings or grumblings about this guy and his hiring. There isn't the same level of eye rolling with his hire as there was a couple years ago when Brian Johnson got the job. So for whatever reason, there are people who do think this guy can do the job. But until we see him do it, until we see him put himself in the same conversation as Shane Steichen, Lincoln Riley, and Kellen Moore, he will be the biggest question of the Philadelphia Eagles going into the 2025 season. Again, 3 out of 10 men have gotten the most out of Jalen Hurts. The other 7 have not. Will Kevin Patullo be part of the top 30%, or will he be part of the rest? And that variable could dictate whether the Philadelphia Eagles win another championship next season. Thanks, everybody, for listening here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Josh Hennig. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll be back on Monday here on 97.3 ESPN.
This Saturday morning, The Locker Room with Billy Schwein starts its 10th year on 97.3 ESPN. Producer Nick Earnshaw and former Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Dave Klemick join me in the studio. We will look back at the last 10 years, plus talk Phillies baseball. Mr. Negadelphia PJ Korda checks in, brought to you by the Galloway Pool Service. How can he be negative? Then we will hear from the head coach of the Royal Revolution cheer team, Michelle Peterson, on the sport and their team's big win. It's The Locker Room with Billy Schwein, Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN.
Something good to know from First Bank of Sea Isle City. We have all of today's innovative banking products just like the big banks, but we offer something they can't. A personal community focus. Let's get you started with Bill Pay. You save time when you pay your bills online. It's fast, easy, and convenient. First Bank of Sea Isle City. A community bank that delivers more for you every day. Personal service, today's technology, from the people who truly care. Learn more at firstbankseaisle.com.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
They've got him! It's a sack!
Sixers.
Oh, baby!
And Flyers.
He scores!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey.